we walked past this room and I looked in and I saw a mantis being, and the mantis being had this white coat on, and I saw someone on this table and the mantis being was working on this person. My next memory is I'm the one on the table and the mantis being is putting this, I say it was a long needle, but it may not have been a needle, but it was a long, thin instrument. He was putting it into my right ear. So fast forward to 2016, it was the 9th of November. My husband and I were living in a townhouse, which is a 2-story building. And so it was November. The weather was hot. And behind our bed head were 2 big windows, and we had them wide open. And I was laying in bed, asleep, and I remember hearing this noise, and it was a clicking and a strumming noise at the same time. So it was a very fast clicking and this noise, but all at the same time. And I remember feeling agitated, and that's not normally a feeling I have. So I was very aware of that. And I remember saying to myself, what is that noise? And feeling annoyed. And then all of a sudden, it was this wave of acknowledgement came over me, and I knew exactly what that noise was. And I knew it was an alien, and I knew it was familiar, almost like my mother's own voice. Like I knew it that well. But with that wave of acknowledgement came this wave of terror, which I'd never felt. And frozen with fear, although I realised I did have paralysis. I was on my side, and then telepathically I hear this voice, which sounded like my own voice, but it was telepathically, and said, "You'll be fine once you're under the covers." And then I realised I was actually being slid back into my bed on my side, and right up until the covers were here, just under my left eye. And just the fear, I remember my heart just pounding. And I was thinking, oh my gosh. And everything that I knew, this knowing, I knew was real. I thought, okay, that's where that knowing comes from. This is all familiar to me. As I laid there, I was hoping it would go away. I was very conscious of my heartbeat. And then the sound stopped. Then I hear a voice again saying, "Whatever you do, don't turn around." And I thought that was my own thoughts. The next moment, I'm on my knees on my pillow, holding onto the bed head, looking out of the window, and on the opposite side was this gold glowing, like a diamond shape. And it was a shape that you would draw like that. But my memory of it is it looked like a geometric diamond, not like that, but geometric shape. And it had all these lines through it. But I was transfixed to this image. And it was almost like it was drawing me in. Again, it was like nothing was happening around me. I was just focused on this image. And it was almost like it was speaking to me or downloading something to me. And then I'm in my bed again. The noise had stopped, and I just thought, thank God it's gone. Thank God. Then I see this image placed into my mind of this long, slender, thin hand. And at the same time, I can feel something being pulled or dragged out of the top of my head. And my instant thought was, oh no, they're taking me again. And as I thought that, I swung around because I could move at this point, and I thought maybe I could see it or catch it, but there was no way I was going anywhere again. And I swung around and I swore. And when I swore, I remember thinking, oh, that's good. My husband would hear me and hopefully he'll wake up. Well, he didn't. It was almost like he wasn't there. I had no sense of him being there. And as I swung around, this female voice then whispered telepathically, secrets, but she went, secrets. And I thought to myself, secrets? I'm not keeping this secret. I'm telling everybody. And then they just left. There was nothing, but I lay there petrified. But then at the same time, I started to ask myself, why? Why am I so frightened? This has happened all my life. Where does this terror come from? With the awake encounter with the glowing diamond, I contacted someone online because I was furiously searching for some answers, and there was this this online chat, and I said, what ETs make the clicking and strumming noise? And this researcher from the States actually got back to me, and she said that's a mantis being. And so I knew that I had had contact with a mantis, and he is the one who slid me back under the covers ever so gently, and was very, I say he, but actually the voice was female in my head. So it may have been female, I don't know, but it was certainly a female voice. But on craft, no, I don't. I recall seeing the greys. I recall seeing humans on board, but I don't have a lot of memories of other people. So he regressed me on the encounter of the 9th of November, the first awake encounter. And it took me a long time to go under. I was very scared. And then when I did relax enough, my first image was I was on craft with a grey, and the grey was holding my hand. And we were walking, or almost floating. He was definitely floating, walking down through the craft. And he said to me, "We have to hurry. We're very busy tonight." And I just thought, and I sensed some humour from him. And I thought, oh, okay, all right, well, I'll get a move on then. And to my right, we walked past this room, and I looked in and I saw a mantis being. And the mantis being had this white coat on, and I saw someone on this table, and the mantis being was working on this person. My next memory is I'm the one on the table, and the mantis being is putting this, I say it was a long needle, but it may not have been a needle, but it was a long, thin instrument. He was putting it into my right ear. And the hypnotherapist asked, is there any pain with that? And while I was relaying it, I didn't feel any pain. And I said, no, I feel quite comfortable. And he asked me, what do you see next? Where are you? And I was in the craft still, but I was in a section of the craft, and I had this, I call it a liquid blue light. It felt like liquid, but it felt to me, the only way I can describe it is like velvet, like true old-fashioned velvet, the fabric, that when you touch it, it feels cold, it feels soft, but it was like a liquid light, and they placed that on me, and as they did, it sucked to my form. And I asked them, what is this? What is this thing? I couldn't get my head around it. And they told me it was to protect my organs as they transport me back. So I found that quite amazing. Just searching for someone with a similar experience. And I did find someone. It was an American college student on some radio program, and he said he was out camping on his own, and he was in his tent, and he heard all these branches of this tree like falling and like crashing. So he got out of his tent, and he said the moment he did and he looked toward the tree line, he became paralyzed. And he said he heard this voice in his head say, whatever you do, don't turn around. And I froze myself, because they were the exact words that I had heard. And like me, he did turn around, and he said he saw this tall mantis standing there. And that was his last memory. I said, if all that happened, if all that was real, give me a sign. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to open the door, let some fresh air in. It was still very early in the morning. It was probably about 5. And as I opened the door, on the screen door was this big praying mantis. And to me, that was a sign. I hadn't seen a praying mantis in absolute years. And especially up here on the coast, I'd never seen one. And I just said to Spirit, okay, if that's a sign, because I thought I was seeing things at first, if that's a sign, I'm going to close the door. If it's still there, I'm going to take that as a sign. Closed the door, I reopened it. It wasn't there. I opened the screen door. I looked down and it was sitting on my chest. So I don't know how it got there. And I took that as a big sign. So, and not that I needed a sign, but when these things happen, you want validation because it's so out of the ordinary. Just trying to relate to the everyday person out there after these encounters is very difficult. It's like you're in a different world. It put me into a spin after my awake encounters that I questioned all my beliefs. I questioned my guides, my spirit team. I thought, who's in charge? If my guides aren't looking after me and I'm being taken, and who's running this show? I just couldn't get my head around it. And wanting to tell people, I'm very open, and I wanted to tell people, but also I knew it was just such a touchy subject, at the time. We weren't speaking about disclosure then. It wasn't on the news or anything. But I did tell people.